Welcome back to the Hair Transplant Mentor YouTube channel. My name is Joe Tillman, sometimes known as the original Hair Transplant Mentor. And if you're wondering what a hair transplant mentor is, you can check it all out at hairtransplantmentor.com. Let's get started. But before we do, let's roll that intro. We're coming into 2019 and we've passed the 1-year mark of Dr. Baubac in the Alvi Armani clinic joining my website, becoming a supported member of hairtransplantmentor.com. Now, what does it mean to be a member of hairtransplantmentor.com as a doctor in a clinic? Well, it means that they meet my standards for cleanliness and ethics and quality and skill and presentation and the whole 9 yards, basically representing what I would like to see in the clinic that I consider for my own hair transplant needs. And Dr. Baubac and the team at the Alvi Armani clinic in Beverly Hills, they became a part of my website back in late 2017 because they met all the criteria that I look for. But we're headed into 2019 and I thought it would be a good idea to review the things I've learned about the clinic since they became a part of what I do and look at some of the new results, talk about some of the new developments, and see how they measure up today. Great, so the first thing on the list of developments with Dr. Baubac in the Alvi Armani clinic in Beverly Hills is that Dr. Baubac is now a member of the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgeons. What does that mean? Well, if you look back on hair transplant class number 11, which is linked right here, and I also have a link down in the description, the ABHRS, or the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgeons, is the only organization in the hair transplant industry where doctors can only become a member if they pass a written and verbal exam. When you sit down for the written examination and the verbal examination, your peers are conducting the examinations themselves. Other doctors that have been in the field for many years. And I know several of them from this past year, and one of them I was speaking with just last week told me that during the written examination portion of the tests, Dr. Baubac finished about a half an hour before any of the other examinees finished their tests, and he was impressed and surprised by that. And then of course he passed the verbal examination as well, and he is now, because of all this, a new member of the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgeons. So in addition to the ABHRS membership development, I was also looking through cases that I didn't maybe see before when I was evaluating the clinic, or cases I did see that I just didn't have that much information on. And one of those that I wanted to learn more about was this case, and this happens to be Jeff, the patient educator that works in the Beverly Hills clinic with Dr. Baubac. Jeff said something in an interview that was conducted that I felt was interesting, and he was talking about his hairline receding. It wasn't thinning out per se, it was just receding.
And I didn't have a lot of, hair loss as far as density. My hairline just kept kind of going back, but the density was there. And so I just kept looking, my forehead kept getting bigger and bigger. So it started bothering me about mid-20s or so, and I just felt like I felt older, I guess. I
liked the way that he described the issue overall, and I liked, of course, the way that Dr. Baubac dealt with this. He performed 2,311 grafts in one pass, and what you haven't seen online, you've seen his pictures, and you might have seen the interview, but you've not seen the comb through. And so this is what I asked the clinic to send me. I wanted to see a comb through of Jeff's results, and this is what they sent to me. I don't know why it's not online, because I think it's fantastic, but when you look at this case, and they're combing through, keep in mind that there's gel in his hair. What does that mean? Well, when you see gel in someone's hair, it actually makes it look a bit thinner than it is if there's no gel. And even with gel in his hair, you can see just how thick this is, not just from the front when it's tilted down, but also from the side as he's rotating. And you can see just how great of a result this is. But it gets even better than that, because a great result isn't just the growth. A great result also has to do with the donor management. So as we continue the rotation, you can see that the donor management was exceptional, meaning that you can't see any sort of specific pattern or any specific region where the grafts were taken from. And unfortunately, this is something that a lot of clinics simply do not understand, is that when you have even a small number of grafts, such as this, 2,300 grafts in one session, you need to utilize the entire donor zone so that no single area has the potential of being over-harvested, which means that there will be an aesthetic difference, something that will catch the eye. And that's the whole point of having a hair transplant, so that it doesn't look like you had a hair transplant. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? 2,311 grafts, the donor looks really great. But what happens if we get basically 3 times that many grafts from a donor zone? What's the donor area going to look like? Well, that's where Simon comes in. Now, you might have seen Simon on the Alvi Armani website. They've got several photos of him, his before images and his after images. It's quite impressive. You can see here his before images and a set of his afters. They've got on the website, they've got them in some promotional materials, they've got them on forums. And a lot of people ask about the transformation because it is impressive. Now, to be clear, and full disclosure, he's had 2 surgeries, and the first surgery was by Dr. Baubac's mentor, Dr. Alvi Armani, the namesake of the clinic, several years ago. But then Dr. Baubac did the second procedure. And because of his training by Dr. Armani, he was able to utilize the donor area with the same precision, the same efficiency, to where 6,873 grafts were taken from this donor area. And as he rotates and his hair is combed through, you can see that there is no sign of surgery. This is efficiency at its best. They didn't take too many from one area. They took it from the entire donor area in both surgeries, to where his donor region looks really no different than anyone else that hasn't had a hair transplant. But let's have a look at some other results. In this result, we have beautiful frontal temporal reconstruction, 3,309 grafts. And the reason why this is such a great result is, yes, one pass, the density is definitely there. But as we transition to the angle here, we can see that the direction and the angle of the graft placement is spot on. This is the kind of result that when you see on the street, you have no clue that anything's been done, and it's just beautiful. It looks fantastic. And this next result is a fantastic transformation, 4,000 grafts at only 7 months. He also had PRP therapy at the time of the procedure, and you look at the before photo, and he looks kind of like James Nesbitt, the UK actor, but 7 months later, he's got 4,000 grafts coming in beautifully, and it's the kind of result that most people would expect at 12 months. 4,000 grafts, FUE, with PRP at the time of the procedure, and we have a really sensible use of the grafts in the placement. The temple angle closure is moderate. The height of the hairline is very appropriate, and it still takes at least 10 years off of the patient's appearance. I mean, this is something that you would never, ever suspect is a hair transplant. He's also had something else done that you can see in the after photo that you don't see in the before photo, besides the hairline reconstruction and the frontal density issue. If you can figure it out, put it down in the comments section. Let me know if you can see what else he's had done. Now, here's the kind of case I really enjoy. It's not that often I see this kind of case where the patient comes in with a really short buzz cut, and then his after photo is the same length. It's very short, and if it's not the same length, it's close enough. When you have your hair this short, all the differences and the mistakes with angulation and direction, multi-hair grafts, that's a big one. They're all much more visible. They're amplified to the passerby because the hair's not long enough to hide it. You can't style it in a certain way to hide the problems. That's the mark of a great result. And if you look at this, he's had a great amount of temple angle closure. I mean, I don't mean like an extreme amount, but the perfect amount. For the height of hairline that he has, it doesn't look like the hairline was actually lowered. It just looks like the temples were filled, closed off, and then some density in the central hairline behind it. But that's it. And when you can have your hair this short and it looks this natural, then that is certainly a win. Another result that is not on the website, I think, or I don't think it's been published online, but okay, so great transformation, but what I want to zoom in on is the temple region. You can see where the transition is just about as good as you can get. The biggest problem with inexperienced clinics is that they don't know how to create the transition between the hairline and the frontal temporal region itself. It's a very difficult transition to do properly, but what makes this even more difficult is the patient has thick, black, coarse hair, which is the hardest kind of hair to work with when it comes to hairlines, and especially when you're trying to make the transition into the temporal regions. If you can do this with black, coarse hair, and it look this good, then you know what you're doing. And Dr. Baubac certainly does. And finally, we've got a result that was announced by the patient himself, and I'm talking about celebrity gossip columnist and blogger and TV personality, Perez Hilton. Now, if you don't know who Perez Hilton is one of the most famous celebrity gossip columnists and gossip bloggers in the world. In fact, he's got one of the most trafficked websites worldwide, and it's been like he gets millions of views every day. He's been on at least 30 television shows in the US and some in the UK, Miss Universe pageant and just all kinds of stuff. He's everywhere. And in 2018, he announced in video that he had had a hair transplant with Dr. Baubac. Now, Perez was suffering from a general thinning through the frontal scalp, but also some temporal recession, and Dr. Baubac took care of that for him. Now, I'm not going to break down the numbers and all those details about Perez's case. That's for a different video. But what I do want to point out is he's talking about the naturalness of the result as he sees it.
There's no scarring. Look at this. Like, look, you can analyze my hairline and you don't see any holes, no scarring. It looks so natural.
That was great of Perez to share his thoughts, and I think it's important because he's obviously made his living in the celebrity world, and I'm sure that he's really picky about cosmetics and the little details, and for him to go into that much detail about what he thinks about it and showing you why he thinks what he thinks about it, I think that's a big statement. So thanks to Perez Hilton for sharing. There might be an interview coming up with him if we can get our schedules to mesh. Not sure. If you're interested in that and you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe so you get the updates about when that video drops. Final points about the Alvi Armani Clinic and Dr. Baubac. Same high standards for their internal protocols. I've been discussing those with them. Nothing's really changed. And one thing to point out, and I think this is really super duper important, especially for 2019 and beyond, is that the team at Alvi Armani in Beverly Hills is the same team. I'm talking about the technicians. The technicians that work for Dr. Baubac day in and day out, full time, Monday through Friday, is the same team he's had for the past 10 years. Why is that important? Well, it's more important than ever in today's world because in 2018, 2019, and beyond, more and more clinics are using part-time technicians, or they might perform surgery part-time themselves as clinics and surgeons, and in many cases, they're only doing it part-time because they're using the technicians supplied by the manufacturer of their particular FUE device, and the technicians don't even actually work for the clinic. They fly in and they fly out on an as-needed basis. And that doesn't speak well to me for consistency. I think it's fair to argue that if you got one team that's been doing the same thing day in and day out for 10 plus years together versus a mishmash of people that come together every once in a while to do the same job, I think that consistency wins. And I think that that's something you should be looking for in your own research, for your own safety, for the quality of your result, for the naturalness, for so many reasons that I've been talking about for years, as you know if you are a subscriber to this channel. So with that said, Dr. Baubac and the Alvi Armani Clinic in Beverly Hills, consistency, excellence, experience, and just raw talent. I think that if you are researching your FUE hair transplant options, you need to be researching Dr. Baubac and Alvi Armani Beverly Hills. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Peace!